Hi, this is Jackie Warsad from the MCC Maple Woods Career Services Office, and today we'll be talking about interview preparation, and this is part one of our presentations for this week. Just a reminder of the resources that are available at all MCC Career Services offices. We can help you build your resume and cover letter. If you've already built those documents, we're happy to review them for you. We can help and assist you in your employment search. We can teach you how to use our online job search tool, which is called MCC Career Central. If you get an interview, let us know and we'll take you through a practice run. That's called a mock interview. And we can help you with the development of your personal brand and your professional skills. So today, after the presentation, I hope that you'll come away with an understanding of how to prepare yourself for a good interview, that you'll understand proper interview etiquette, and that you will start being able to assemble a list of questions that you can ask an interviewer at the end of the interview. To be successful in an interview, you have to do a lot of preparation and homework, and so we're going to talk about that today. I want to remind you that you're not going to get every job that you interview for. And it's really important in the interview process and the job search process to be resilient and to stay the course and to keep on going. Realize that every interview you get provides you with an opportunity to develop your interviewing skills and your skills in speaking to employers about how you're the best fit for a job. The first thing that I would recommend you do is to review the job posting for the job that you applied for and review that job description just to see how your skills and your experience and your education fit the qualifications that the company is seeking in the candidate that they want to hire. Make sure that when you read that description, you're getting a full understanding of the scope of the position and the tasks and responsibilities that the person that they hire would be expected to do in that job. Like I said before, preparing for an interview is really doing homework and getting yourself ready to do a good interview. And so you're going to want to do some research about the company that you're applying with, that you're interviewing with. And you can do that by looking at their website. A lot of information can be found on a company website. Information about the business services that they offer, their client base or customer base, interesting and innovative things that the company is doing. You can find a lot of information by looking at the company website. Also, you can research industry information as well through the company website, through other websites, but you also want to look at the social media for the company as well to get some information. And then there are websites that offer employees the opportunity to give their feedback on what it is like to work with a specific company, what their experience has been as an employee. So you can look in any of these areas and gather information as you prepare for your interview. Some jobs might require that you give presentations. And so you may be asked to give a presentation in an interview if that's specific to the job that you would be hired to do. If you're asked to do a presentation, just make sure that you're following the instructions that the employer gives you for putting that presentation together. If you're in doubt, just reach out to them and ask them for clarification on what they're expecting you to present on. Use information that's available on the company website and industry resources sites so that you can gather pertinent information for your presentation. And then if they give you a time limit, make sure that you're staying within those time limits, because oftentimes they have more than one person that they're interviewing and hearing presentations from in a given day. I would recommend that you review your cover letter and resume that you submitted when you applied for the job. Read through them and just be thinking about how you're going to talk to an employer about your skills and how they are relevant to the job that you're interviewing for. Practice your elevator pitch. One of our career services coordinators did a presentation last week on the elevator pitch, and she described it as a 30 to 60-second answer to the question, "Tell us about yourself." It's that brief branding message that you use to introduce your professional self to an employer. It really is the response to the first question that you will typically have in an interview, which is, "Tell us about yourself." So make sure that you are practicing your elevator pitch, watching the video that we put on last week about elevator pitches, and practicing so that you feel comfortable in introducing yourself to an employer and talking about how you are a qualified fit for the position you're interviewing. After the interview, if you feel that it went well, if you get an indication that you may be moved to the next level of the interview process, it would probably be appropriate to reach out to your references if you haven't done so before that time. If you haven't provided those references when you applied for the job, reach out to your references just to confirm their contact information to make sure that you have the right email address or phone number if an employer decides to get in touch with them. You might also offer to send your references your current resume and a description of the job that you're interviewing for, just so they have an understanding if they're contacted by an employer, an understanding of how your skills best fit that job. I like to think of the materials that you bring with you to an interview as your interview packet. You want to bring with you a copy of your cover letter, and that's just for you to use as reference and when you're preparing those few minutes before the interview. You want to have key information and data that you listed in that cover letter highlighted so that you can speak to those qualifications that you have. I would advise you to bring extra copies of your resume just in case the employer or the people interviewing you haven't had a chance to print yours out. Obviously, they've reviewed them because they're inviting you in for an interview, but you want to, as a courtesy to them, bring extra copies of those documents with you. You also might want to think about having a padfolio or a portfolio, which is really just a professional looking notebook with extra resumes in it. You want to have something where you can have your question list for the interviewers and a pen and some paper that you can write and take notes on any interesting information that they tell you, or any information that you're gathering during that interview. You want to be able to take some notes. And if you found information that you wanted to print out from the company website, you might put that in that portfolio or padfolio, just so you have it with you to review before you go in for the interview. The last question that you will typically be asked on an interview is, do you have questions for us? And so you want to think in advance about the questions that you will ask an employer. You can ask any questions that came up while you were doing your research on the company or the position. You can ask them what their expectations are for the person that would fill this position. You can ask them what their expectations would be for the person they hire within the first 30 or 60 or 90 days on the job. You can ask them about orientation and training that's available for the person that they would hire. Ask them about the work environment and the team culture, what types of projects you might be working on, what professional qualities they're seeking in the employee who would be the best fit for the job. You can ask them about the strengths of their company and maybe what they think some of the challenges for the company might be, or even challenges that they might foresee for the person in the position. Like, what would be some of the challenges that this position would face? The questions that you ask an employer at the end of an interview will tell them how much time you spent learning about their company and learning about the job that you're interviewing for. There are questions that you probably want to stay away from asking during the interview. Those would be things like salary and benefits, vacation and sick leave. There's a more appropriate time to ask those questions, and it's usually after you've completed that interview. If they're moving you towards the next phase of the interview process, if you're moving up to the next tier of candidates, or if you're being considered for the job, or definitely if you're being offered the job, you want to ask those questions then rather than in that first interview. You can ask them about what is the typical career path for someone who is in this type of position. And that's really a question to ask them what kinds of professional development opportunities they might offer to someone that they would hire. You can ask them, it kind of gives you a snapshot of whether they promote positions from within, but you never want to give an employer the impression that you are applying for a job simply because you want to use it as a quick stepping stone to the next position up the ladder. So just be thinking wisely about how you would ask questions about promotions or opportunities for growth within a specific job. You don't want to ask them how many other candidates that they're interviewing. They wouldn't answer that question, and it's not appropriate to ask that. And then you don't want to ask any questions that might make them think that you didn't do your research or that you really don't know what the position is that you're interviewing for. On the interview day, just remember, we all get nervous when we interview, but just remember, they have asked you to interview because they looked through your application materials and they felt that you had qualifications that might make you a candidate for that job. So you're interviewing because they want to talk with you about that job and talk with you about your skills. So feel confident in knowing that they have invited you there because they want to talk with you. Some common sense things, just make sure that you're getting rest and eating properly, whatever you typically do to make sure that you are your best self. Those are the things that you want to continue doing as you prepare for your interview day. Again, review that job posting and your application materials. Just a quick read over of them the day of is a good idea, just to have things fresh in your mind. Preparing your outfit, we'll talk about that in a minute. The basics of professional appearance, things like good hygiene, making sure that you are presenting yourself in your best professional way. Just put your best foot forward and make sure that you are giving them a great image of who you are and who you would be as an employee with that company. Interview attire can be divided into two different categories. There's business casual and business formal. So typically, business casual would be a buttoned shirt or polo. Sometimes that's acceptable as well. It can be dress pants or khaki pants, dress shoes. So that would be considered business casual. A dress or a skirt that is appropriate in length, that would be business casual. Business formal is more formal. So that would be your typical business suit with a tie, with a collared shirt, a blouse, um, dress shoes, appropriate length skirts for individuals who choose to wear a skirt or pants, just appropriate length and making sure that you are presenting yourself in a business formal way. Now, within different industries, there are different outfits that are acceptable. I would say for industries like skilled trades, you would lean toward, and that would be welding, HVAC, linemen. It is acceptable to dress in a business casual way. It is also acceptable to wear a good pair of jeans with a collared shirt that is tucked in. And you might consider for those industries wearing steel-toed boots or shoes. You also might have, probably will, especially for welding, have a skills test as part of your interview. So you want to be sure that you're reaching out to the employer to ask, will I have a skills test to show my welding skills? And if so, you want to make sure that you're bringing your proper safety equipment and clothing that is appropriate for you doing those skills. If you're interviewing in the veterinary field or the medical field, healthcare providers, you might want to ask if it would be appropriate to bring a lab coat or to wear scrubs for those interviews. Obviously, you're going to go formal or casual based on the individual business, but you might be taking a tour of patient care facilities. And so you might ask, if you are being given a tour, would it be appropriate to bring a lab coat or to bring scrubs or wear scrubs to that environment? We never want students to think that they have to spend a fortune on clothing. And there are a variety of ways that you can get appropriate clothing for interviews. The first is your typical retail stores where you can buy online or in the store good quality interview clothing. A lot of retailers also have outlet stores where they have very good quality clothing, but at a discounted price. And then my favorite is actually secondhand or thrift stores, consignment stores. Um, a lot of times, if you look through the racks with a keen eye, you can find some great quality clothing for very deeply discounted prices. I know that I have found clothing that in the regular retail store would have been a lot more than I wanted to pay or was able to pay for at the time. And so, in finding them at a thrift store, a consignment store, secondhand shop, you can pay a lot less for some very good quality items. So, those are just recommendations. And then something else that MCC offers at our Penn Valley campus is called MCC Penn Station. That is a resource for business clothing. Individuals have kindly donated business attire to Penn Valley's Penn Station. All of the items have been cleaned and pressed, and Penn Station is like a store at the Penn Valley campus in the campus center on the ground level. It is for all MCC currently enrolled students, and you can go and find an appropriate business outfit, and it is at no cost to the students. So this is contact information for the Penn Valley Career Services office, so you can reach out to them to get more information on utilizing the great services at Penn Station on our Penn Valley campus. Back to the interview day. They're going to give you instructions for where to go for the interview, what time to be there, who you should check in with. Just make sure that you're following those instructions so you don't miss anything the day of. Make sure you charge your cell phone because you might be using it for driving directions, or things happen on the way to interviews. Sometimes we get flat tires, sometimes we get caught in traffic, and we might need to reach out to that employer just to let them know we are on our way. Do your best not to be late for an interview, but we understand that things happen sometimes, so you need to be in touch with the employer to keep them posted on what's going on. So charge your cell phone. And then turn your cell phone ringer off when you go into the interview as well, because you don't want distractions while you're interviewing. You want to make sure that you have reliable transportation, whatever mode you choose to get to an interview, whether that's the bus or a friend who's driving you or your own vehicle. Make sure that you have reliable transportation so you can get there when you need to be there. Make sure you plan in advance how you're going to get there, get those driving directions ready so that you won't get lost. Plan to arrive at the interview site 10 to 15 minutes early so that you can find parking and so that you can get settled in and just calm yourself, take a few deep breaths before you go in for the actual interview. This is something that we expect people to do. We should all be doing this every day, no matter whether we're interviewing or not. Be friendly and courteous to every person that you meet. On an interview, you never know who might be asked what their experience was with you when you did your interview or on the interview day. You never know who might be able to give their input on how you behaved as an interview candidate. And so just like we would do any other time, being friendly, kind, and courteous to everyone we meet, we especially want to do that on an interview day as well. Check your appearance, take a few minutes to just make sure that, you're putting your best self forward, whether that's, stopping in the restroom and, checking in the mirror for your, that your hair is in place and that, your clothing looks great. And then just be confident, remembering that you're there because they want to talk to you. They felt that you were a qualified person to bring in for an interview. There are different types of interviews. Obviously, there are in-person interviews and phone and video interviews. Sometimes when candidates are not local to a company, they might first have an interview via phone or video. Sometimes that's part of the first step of an interview process, and then the company decides whether they want to bring a candidate on ground in person for an interview. But it is more common now to have, especially video interviews. So we'll just give some tips and tools about these different types of interviews and how you can prepare for those. Again, being friendly and confident, whether you're on the phone, in person, or on video. Make sure that you thank the interviewer for their time. And this is true for videos and phones as well. Because it takes a lot of time to interview people, and people have very busy schedules at companies. And so they're taking time out of their day to talk with you. And so you want to thank them for that courtesy. And then also you want to ask them for their contact information so that you're able to send a follow-up email or a card or a short letter just thanking them after that interview is over for taking the time to meet with you. For phone and video interviews, a little bit more specific information or preparation that you want to do, just make sure that you have a quiet place to talk that does not have a lot of distractions. Noisy pets or your neighbor mowing the grass, just be sure that you're in a quiet space where you're able to hear the interviewer clearly and where they're able to hear you when you respond to their questions. And then make sure that you're checking your background for video interviews, and that you are, sitting in a space that is professional and certainly not distracting to the interviewer. So just be thinking of those things when you get ready for those types of interviews. Career Services is always available to do mock interviews. Again, that's just a practice run. We will put together a list of questions for you that employers typically would ask in an interview. We'll let you answer those questions, and then we'll give you our feedback on how you did and give you some tips and insight into what employers are really looking for when they ask you those interview questions, and best ways to prepare yourself to be comfortable answering those questions. You can schedule those with any member of the Career Services team. We are always here to help you. Again, just a quick reminder, you want to be resilient. Every interview is an opportunity to practice your skills. I can't say it enough. You learn something from every interview that you do. And I would just encourage you to stay resilient and be confident, and just realize that we are here to support you and help you in any way that we can. So don't hesitate to reach out to the Career Services coordinators, because we're happy to help. This is our website. It lists all of our contact information for the Career Services coordinators at all MCC campuses. And we hope that you'll reach out to us so that we can help you. Best of luck to you for a great interview. And please reach out and let us know if there's anything else that we can do to help you. Have a great day.